All right, that was worship night on Friday night. I don't know if you guys got to be here, but it was awesome, and I'm sure that we will do it again. And shout out to Nick, who is running sound today, who shot all that video, edited all of that video, and delivered it in time for us to look at it this morning. That sounds like a very small feat. It is not. So thank you, Nick. And, just a shout out to our worship team and our production team. You guys don't, I know you see like the end product, but they work really hard, like really, really hard. We came in the middle of the week and showed up and practiced and got ready and like all this stuff. And I'm just really, really proud of those teams and the work they do and that I get to be a part of them. And so guys, thank you. Ladies, I say guys, I mean everybody. Well, thank you so much. So my name is Obadiah. I'm the creative director. I get to be a part of those teams. And today I dressed up. I didn't realize that I had dressed up. I was in my closet this morning and I pulled out one of my customary kind of fit, kind of fat t-shirts, which I love. It's like my favorite clothing brand in the world. And I was cold. And I was like, well, I'll put on a sweatshirt. And then I was like, well, I got to preach, so then you're going to be too hot. And I was like, well, then I'll put on a long sleeve shirt. And then I realized I don't have any cool long sleeve shirts. I just have dressy ones. I mean, a shirt with buttons, this is practically a tie to me, people. Like, you don't even know. This is formal wear that I've got on today. It was accidental, but here we are. And thank you, Doug Crum, for helping me understand that. So I was on the internet, this has been a couple of months ago, actually, and it's where this sermon series started. And I was sitting there on Facebook, and I had posted something, and somebody said something, in the comments, and I just was sitting at my desk, and I just said, why are people so mean? I was like, that's just mean. And then I thought, well, Obadiah, maybe you're the mean one. Maybe she read that and she was like, "Argh," and I thought, I'll just take that down. I don't want to be, well, I'll just take it down. But that wasn't enough. She came after me in my messages. I saw you took that down. And it was like, oh my gosh, I've been targeted. They're coming for me. And it was like, it went on from there. And I apologized, and it wasn't enough. She kept coming at me. And I was just like, wow, why are you being, what is happening? Why are people so mean? And I thought, well, I'll show you some past comments. I will tell you, I used to do morning radio in Columbus. I worked for a station called Radio U. I did a show called The Riot. I got plenty of complaint emails. I would print those emails, highlight my favorite parts, and hang them at my desk. And bathe in the tears of my enemies. I guess my tolerance is lower than it used to be. Rather than sharing those emails, I thought I would share with you some mean tweets. Have you ever seen Jimmy Kimmel do this? I had to go in and really edit these, because I'll tell you, a lot of them were so mean, I couldn't show them here. So let's just take a look at how mean we can be on the internet.
So sweaty in Top Gun, get a shower, you smelly little dwarf. That I take personally.
Patton Oswalt is what happens when you bury Rosie O'Donnell in the pet cemetery. I have a movie pitch.
Elizabeth Warren is what happens when Jan Brady grows up.
If Templeton the rat from Charlotte's Web had a successful rat cousin he hated for being an unctuous slime ball, it would be Ted Cruz.
I imagine Patrick Mahomes' barber is a superhero who has to run out and save the world every time he gets halfway through Mahomes' haircut.
This dude, Travis Kelce, looks like the Notre Dame leprechaun.
Joey Bosa's nose is so big it looks like he's been lying every day for his whole life.
Oh, so thank you, Jimmy Kimmel, for that. But I went through those, and I'm watching them. What's really interesting is, well, I picked the funny ones. But every once in a while, if you watch them, you'll find a celebrity, like someone will say something, and you'll see it hit them. Like, and it, like, they don't laugh. Like, it cuts deep. And it hurts. And you're like, oh, why can't they take a joke? Well, why are we so mean? Is a really good question. Why are we? Didn't our parents teach us the golden rule? Maybe you've heard of it, Matthew 7:12. Here's the Obadiah version. Treat others the way you want others to treat you. This, I'll tell you what right now, if you want to talk about how smart Jesus is and all this stuff, this right here alone, it blows my mind. I guess it's been like the last year. I can't stop thinking about it. Just how wise and deep and downright incredible this statement really is. Because, I mean, you think about it, you have to observe yourself. You have to be there with others, and circumstances change. And, like, each one of us is going to go at it a little different. But there's such brilliance to the golden rule. I was actually thinking about it like two mirrors set up in front of each other. You know, you do that thing where you're like, there's so many of us. You know, but that's what the golden rule feels like. I feel like the longer I look at it, like, whew, it just keeps getting deeper and going and going and going. It's wild. But okay, Jesus can be a little controversial sometimes. So what about just your mom? Didn't your mom ever say to you, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all? Well, let me tell you what. A lot of people are saying a lot of things that aren't nice, and they're saying all the things. So, no, we're not listening to mom. Now, something that I got to say, all these people being mean, guess what I am? I'm people. Now, breathe deep and take that one in, all right? And the guy who's going to stand up here and talk to you about not being mean, and then is going to talk to you about being loving, is a person who is guilty of being mean and unloving. So let's make sure that we understand we're all coming at this material from equal footing, okay? So, why are we so mean? Matthew 24:12 has an answer. Check it out. It says, because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Now, this is where the title of this sermon series came from. I was thinking about that One Republic song, Love Runs Out. And then I was thinking about that Foreigner song, Cold as Ice. Cold as ice. And then I was thinking about Matthew 24. And then I was thinking about a blender. And Love Runs Cold is what came out. Okay? So let's talk about Matthew 24. Just so I'm not just like, whoop, just grabbing that scripture out and being like, I'll use this for whatever I want. Okay? Matthew 24 is a really big chapter. Oh, it's long. It's hard to get through. No, that's not actually what I mean. It talks about really, really big things. In fact, if you open Matthew 24, just the little headlines that they add to the Bible might make you go, oh gosh. It talks about the end of the age, the abomination of desolation. You're like, what is that? That's terrifying. Jesus talks about the temple, and in fact, for context, like he and his disciples are hanging out at the temple. A very impressive building, by the way. I feel like it's hard for us to get a hold of that because we've been to impressive buildings and we see pictures of impressive buildings and all this stuff. But back in the day, there was only one way to see an impressive building. You had to go and see it. So there they are. They're all impressed by this temple. And they're like, wow, look at it. And Jesus is like, yeah, they're going to rip this thing down. Whoa. You know, and he kind of starts with that. And then he just keeps talking about all these other things that are going to happen. And in the middle of this, he drops this. The increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Now, as we're looking at that, and it's talking about as we get to the end of the age, the love of most will grow cold. I feel like there's a couple things we have to keep in mind. Is that we sometimes have a tendency to read that and be like, yep, man, it's the end of the world. I'm just holding on till Jesus comes. That's it, because it's so bad. There's a little more to it than that. And we might even say, like, right, because, like, the world's about to blow up or something, so, like, listen, people have always been mean, okay? You get that, right? Because what I feel like, at least among some of my friends, maybe we're just crossing a certain age, and I don't know what it is, but they're like, well, when I was a kid, it wasn't like this. And I'm like, Mike, why do you sound so old? Stop saying that, all right? But it's that idea that, like, oh, when I was a kid, people were nicer than they are now. But we got to get a hold of something. They were mean when you were a kid, okay? They were mean when your grandkids were kids. People were mean when your grandkids' kids were kids. They were mean when we founded this country. It's not like, oh, man, they started America and everything was great. They were mean when they crossed the Mayflower. They were mean when they signed the Magna Carta. Any King John fans in the room? Anybody? Historical humor. It doesn't usually hit, but I decided to just go with it. So you can look it up when you get home, okay? But listen, people have always been mean. But Jesus is telling us there's a time out there where people are going to get meaner. Like, we might be in that time right now, but can I tell you something else? If we are living in a space where we think that love growing cold has peaked at mean internet comments, wow, we're going to find out it can get worse than that. I'm not taking away how mean they can be. It hurts sometimes, right? But it can be worse. So here we find ourselves in the middle, where love can grow cold, where we are commanded to, are we commanded to love? Are we supposed to love people? Now, this might be my philosophy minor background coming out, but if you ever get to take a philosophy class, it's just a bunch of people in a room asking questions where you're like, why are we asking these questions? And I loved it. I took it the whole time, right? So let's ask this question. Do we have to love others? Love's running cold, so what? I can just hang out in my basement. You guys saw a picture of that a couple weeks ago, right? It's nice. There's a big TV down there. I can just watch it. What do I care about it? Well, let's take a look. Actually, wait, I got to say, this whole idea of do we have to love others, the idea that it's like, hey, that's a dumb question, Obadiah. But can we just say, like, have you ever done that thing where you're like, I don't need to be kind to them. That's their job. Okay? So what if I was hard to them? Can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Hey, I'm speaking truth. They just need to hear it. Right? So while we're saving the world by complaining to the manager, let's take a look at 1 John 4, 7, and 8 about love. Okay? It says, beloved, let us love one another. For love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Does anybody know the song? He that loveth not God, for God is love. No? Okay. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. That's just one example. Go read 1 John 4 if you're looking for homework. Bottom line is yes. The answer to the question is we need to love. And so here we find ourselves at the beginning of this sermon series, Love Runs Cold, where we know that love has always had a tendency to sometimes get a little cold. There's a time out there where it's going to get a little colder, but here we are in the middle being commanded to love anyway. So, in this tension that we live in, how do we get out there and love? And that is what we're going to spend the next couple of weeks going over. So in college, I was dating a girl. I'm bragging. I did not marry her, okay? And I knew that I wasn't in love with her because I had listened to a lot of pop and hip hop, and I knew exactly what love was. And so it was, oh, you know what? There was also that line in The Matrix. Does anybody remember that one? It was formative for me. Being the one is like being in love. No one can tell you that you are. You just know it. So between hip hop radio and the Matrix, I was set. But I knew, here I am dating somebody, and I was like, man, I wouldn't know if I was in love. I don't even really know what love is. And I want you to show. No, that's still not good enough. So I thought, well, 1 Corinthians 13, that's the one everybody always throws around about love. So I took an afternoon, and I went home. I'm living with my parents. I go down into the basement, and I get open my Bible, and I don't know how many times I've done this since, but I spent hours with 1 Corinthians 13. Over and over and over. And I prayed about it. And I can even remember at one point, like walking around, like I'm just really trying to get a hold of it, right? And then there's this moment that I really won't forget when it suddenly occurred to me. I'm like, wait a minute. 1 Corinthians 13 is not going to tell me whether or not I'm in love. This is not an are you in love checklist. This is an instruction manual. And it was in that moment that the wisdom of DC Talk rang throughout my basement. I don't care what they say. I don't care what you heard. The word love. Ha! Love is a verb. Love is not something I feel. Love is something I do. You see, love is something that would be impossible to feel for everybody, I think. I mean, okay, I think about my wife, and if I really think about her, I smile. I think about my daughter, and when I really think about her, I smile. I think about Pastor Justin. You know? And there's just... But you guys get it, right? I mean, there are going to be people that you're like, but you know what? I love Pastor Justin. No, really. But there are going to be people that like, maybe not. But if I'm supposed to love people, how am I going to do that if I can't generate that feeling every time? Well, that's because it's not just a feeling. There's more to it than that. Love is something that we do. And so I think we're ready to read 1 Corinthians 13. Actually, okay, wait, one more thing. Man, it's a lot of buildup. This is that philosophy thing again. You just wouldn't believe how long it takes for them to crack something open and read it. We have to get a hold of the fact that 1 Corinthians 13 is written for Christians. Okay? Do you ever do that thing where you like hear a sermon and you're like, I'll tell you who needs to hear this. Pastor Bob needs to hear this. I'm going to send it over to him. He really does. Or, you know, you post it on Facebook hoping that one person sees it. Oh, they need this. You know, whatever. 1 Corinthians 13 is not written for these terrible people out there on the internet. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians, the letter to the Corinthians, it's addressed to people like you and me. People that have, in fact, there's kind of an assumption that the people that are going to read this are people that already are following Jesus. That's kind of it. You're 12 chapters into a letter addressed to a group of people at a church in the city of Corinth. So the idea, I mean, you might be able to say like, well, I wasn't in Corinth, so I'm not sure this one's for me. That's the best you're going to get, okay? Because the bottom line is, this is for Christians. And here's the thing, when you start reading this, and we're going to read the whole chapter, all right? And here's what you'll see in the chapter, is that you're going to, they're doing, you can kind of, they're alluding to some really wild things that are happening, okay? Like things where people are speaking in other languages, and it's like, whoa, what? There's like crazy acts of generosity that are taking place. Like there are these faith things that are going on. It's wild. It's the kind of church that I would guess most of us would be like, hey, I want to be with those people. But there's still something that they're missing. There's still something they're missing. And this is for them. Guys, this is for us. We can be Jesus followers doing amazing things and still be lacking something. All right? So let's look at it. Here we go. If I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am noisy. I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, Gandalf kind of look. I just imagine like some wizened old guy, like, ooh, he has hidden knowledge. And if I have faith so as to remove mountains, think about that. I'll just tell you right now. If somebody said, Obadiah, do you want to have love or the power to move mountains? My honest response would be, I want to be a mountain mover. Well, hey, can we get real? I could monetize that super easy. You know? Moving mountains, get out of here. It's incredible. But I have not love, I'm nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, think about that. We're going to have offering later. We do all the time. A time of generosity. Somebody walks in and they're like, hey, I sold my house. Here's the money. And I sold a kidney. Wow, that's something. Wow, but it says here, deliver up my body to be burned. But have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. Oh, man. Rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they'll pass away. Tongues will cease. Knowledge will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. See, like these are things that we need for a certain time. But then the time's going to come when they're not needed anymore because we're 100% in God's presence. But there's something that's going to go the whole time. The love thing is going to last. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. See, like there is a time that is out there when we're going to see things that even now we don't see. Now we know in part, but then we're going to know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love. I got to be reminded of that because like I said, if I was given the option between like superpowers and the ability to be nice, I already told you which one that I would pick. But here I am being told all that other stuff is not really what matters. It's love that actually matters. There's so much there. Man, you guys could do a whole sermon series on that. Yeah, we are. So what I want to do is actually just look at 1 Corinthians 4 and just the first half of the verse. Man, that's it? Just the first half? Listen, Scripture's powerful, guys. Sometimes you just need a little to get started, all right? So let's look at it. Love is patient. We kind of know what patient is, but here's the definition. Able to accept or tolerate delays, problems, or suffering. Well, we're all already doing that. I mean, we're going to work tomorrow, right? Come on. Without becoming annoyed or anxious. Well, isn't that just the kicker? Right? I mean, ladies, don't get mad at me when I say this, but guys, can we just talk about waiting on not just our wives, but just on women in general? That's what you're designed to do. I keep telling guys, I see them, they're like, well, I'm waiting on this girl, and it's like, just get used to it. That's gonna be the rest of your life. For whatever reason and whatever circumstances, you will be waiting. In the car, in the lobby, in the kitchen. You'll be waiting, like just wherever you are. You're going to be waiting, and eventually you're going to fall in love, and you're just going to be waiting on that one person. But that is what you're going to do. But can you do it patiently? Can you do it without getting annoyed? Can you wait patiently without getting anxious? Spend some time at the airport. Watch people that have a connecting flight and their first flight is delayed. It is, I've been there, it's rough. Like, that is not an easy thing. It's not, right? Patient. Love is patient. Love is kind. Having or showing a friendly, generous, and considerate nature. Love could be as simple as, hey, you can sit here, I'll stand up. That's kind. Oh, you know what? Let me split this donut with you. Better yet, Obadiah, you have the donut. Thanks. That's very kind of you. You really were paying attention on Sunday. It's kind. Kind, I actually think, is one you don't have to look at for very long. It's easy, right? So, we're in here digging into love and just patient and kind. I feel like we could walk out of here and it would kind of be enough. And we're going to. But first, I want us to sit for a minute with the idea of love being patient and kind. I want us to try to apply these things. I've got 3 scenarios. And I'm going to read them to you. And after each one, I'm going to give you about 60 seconds. I forgot my watch, which was going to count me down to 60 seconds. So I'll do my best, right? But I'm going to read you a scenario. And then I want you to decide, remembering that it's not about feelings, remembering that it's something that you choose to do in this circumstance. You don't even have to do the whole rest of the chapter. Just how can I be patient and kind? You ready? You don't have to share your answers either, by the way. It's just between you and God and then whoever you end up having to do this to later. Okay, scenario number 1. After a long day at work, you come home to find out that your kid has not done the dishes or cleaned their room like they were supposed to. This means they lose their phone for the next day. They begin screaming at you about how you have ruined their life and you're totally unfair. How do you show patience and kindness in this circumstance? Think about it. Nick, you got some? All right, let's hear it. Nick, I feel like we're going to bury the child with this music. We got to find. The answer was the viewing hours are this weekend. Okay, that's not fair to Nick. I'm sorry, dude, but like, I don't know. Maybe 30 seconds. Give me the offering music. That's better. Okay. Patient and kind with your kid at home. I'm just going to throw this out here. Your child in that circumstances may have a different definition of what patient and kind was than you as a parent. It's fine, okay? All right, scenario number 2, here we go. Just to be clear, these are all made up. This never actually happened. You drive up to the CVS Pataskala, and the drive-through window is closed. You go inside to find a line of almost 20 people, and only 2 people working in the pharmacy. You need your medication. How do you handle it with patience and kindness? 60 seconds. Think about it. Okay, now before we do scenario 3, please allow me to tell on myself. This was many moons ago. Clearly, I'm such a better person now. It was Alicia's birthday. It was before we had Aurora. And man, maybe some people get married and they just have a ton of money. We were not those people. And it was her birthday. And so we took this money that we had scraped together to go to Easton for dinner and had probably the single worst dinner experience of our entire lives. We go to this restaurant. I don't know where our server went. I can tell you, I think I got a thimble of water at one point in the meal, but 2 thimbles was too much. The food was bad. At some point, our server literally never came back, and I don't even know why. And so then it was like, we have to pay. And so I'm walking around begging people, can I please pay my bill? Yeah, just go sit down. Just go sit down, whatever. Almost an hour to pay our bill. Very frustrated, right? So this 3-hour, not great birthday experience that we had sacrificed to make happen. The next day I go to work. Where do I work? Well, I host a morning show in Columbus, Ohio, where Easton is located. And at about 6:30 that morning, I was like, randomly, I don't know why I did this, I decided to check my credit card statement to discover that they had charged me for that wonderful experience twice. I'll tell you, I had a lot of indignation and anger and a microphone. So what do you think happened next? I let it rip, and I let it rip with the name and location of the place that I had been. Just all of it, and it was probably pretty good radio. I got a ton of phone calls. I aired most of them. We did 45 minutes on how bad this restaurant was. Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. So it's fine. I don't care about it. We leave the show, go back to my desk. About 30 minutes after I'm sitting at my desk, my phone rings. It's someone who claims to be the owner of that restaurant. And I was like, whatever. I'm like, sure, yeah, this is just somebody. And he's like, well, give me your credit card number. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm doing that. He's like, okay, that's fine. Would you be willing to meet me at the restaurant today at 11 o'clock? And I was like, this ain't real, but it's a great bit. So I'm driving right on down there. You better believe it. So I did. I get there at 11. When they open, right before it, the door is open. And let me tell you what it's like to finally get exactly what you asked for. I walk in that door, and guess who's there? The owner, the manager, both assistant managers, the entire kitchen staff, and the entire wait staff. And they have all had a great morning so far. And I got the opportunity to receive an apology from them, just like I said I wanted. Do you think I wanted it when I got it? They refunded my money and gave me a gift card that remains unused to this day. Because I never went back. Now, did I learn a lot that day? Oh my gosh, you don't even know. I learned it at the expense of about 15 people and a restaurant. It's awful. I grew up as a broadcaster that day in a lot of ways because I suddenly, it never became more real to me that people were listening and the words I said had an effect on the people that heard them. Wow! Oh my gosh. I'm still embarrassed to tell that story, but it's real, right? It happened. I did that. And, we could argue some people are like, well, you know what? They deserved it. Those lazy whatever, they finally got what was coming to them. Okay. Can we just say that maybe you think that? But did I fulfill my mandate as given to me in 1 Corinthians 13 that day? No, I did not. And can I tell you that you guys are now all broadcasters? You see, back in 04 or 05 or whenever I did that, me having a microphone was a rare thing. Now, almost every single one of you has got an audience. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is that you do, YouTube, you've got an audience. Your words go out in front of you and affect people. And take it from somebody who's done great damage. You don't want to hear back about it, okay? You won't like it. There. Scenario number 3. Scenario number 3. You've played or worked hard, but the game or the project did not go well. During the meeting that follows, your boss or coach singles you out to criticize you in front of the group. It feels unfair because you aren't the only one who made mistakes. The next day, you're forced to work one-on-one with your coach or boss. How do you maintain patience and kindness? Now, let me just say, the other 2 scenarios that we've used have been people maybe on equal footing, but in reality, a server or a child or whatever. This is a scenario where you have to love up and not this way or this way, okay? 60 seconds, think about it. I don't know if I'm any good at counting, but let's just move on. Is it easy to love a boss or the waiter, server, a kid in the circumstances we talked about? But listen, love is not easy, but it's not a suggestion. 1 Corinthians 13 does not say, hey, Jesus followers, when you get around to it, when you feel up to it, it just says to love each other, and it gives a whole list. Patient and kind. Now, it would be easy to think that God is pretty unfair, right? Well, of course, God, you're perfect. Of course you're going to say that, right? But come on, do you know what God does for us? God models it for us, and then he empowers us to do it. He does. I want you to think for just a second. Can you think of a time when God was patient with you? Can you think of a time when God was kind to you? Well, if you're a Jesus follower, then you got something. You're not following him because he was really mean to you, right? You've got at least one thing. I have a lot. One of the ones I thought about, I must have been thinking about that time of life, was that, I felt like God wanted us to sell our house. Again, this is before we had a kid. We were newly married. We bought a house. And I was like, man, it's time to sell this house. I feel like God wants us to do it. So I put it on the market. And I felt like God told me, Obadiah, this is going to be a blessing to you and to the person that buys it. And I thought, I don't know how that works, but okay. And I just assumed that because I really felt like he wanted me to do this, that it was just going to be like that, dude. It's going to be done. It's going to be over. But it wasn't. Like the months started to pile up, and that stupid for sale sign started to mock me when I pulled in after work, So then I started having people do stuff like, we're going to anoint this. We're going to walk the property line, and we're going to do all these things that are going to make this happen. It didn't work. Okay? The house still did not sell, despite all the little tricks that we were doing and slapping Jesus' name on, all right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm just mad. And I went for a walk. And I remember finally just starting to throw a fit. This was a kid throwing a fit at their parent. One of the things that I've really come to understand as a parent is that a kid throwing a fit is because they just want to get the thing that they want. So I am throwing a holy fit. Sure, okay. But I'm throwing a fit at God about him not doing the thing I want done in the time that I want it done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I still remember, I'm walking through my neighborhood, and I remember looking at this tree, this little sapling that got planted. And I remember God just kind of quietly just saying to me like, hey, you're throwing a fit to manipulate me. And that's not the way it works. It was simple, but it was kind. And it was patient. You see, we have the tendency to get pushed to our limits, and then we break and we yell and we get angry and get whatever. But there I was behaving, acted a fool, behaving like a kid. And there was my loving Father just kindly saying to me, hey, that's not the way this is going to work. And do you know how long it took for our house to sell? 3 years. Was it a blessing to me and the person that bought it? Yeah. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but it happened. But it happened on his terms. And that was just the way it was. And that was just one of the many times that God has shown me love. How many times do I go home and I told that stupid house story because I didn't want to get to this point. I can tell that story without crying. How many times do I go home and just begin to make a laundry list of all the things that I've done wrong, ways that I didn't measure up. And God's never yelled at me. He's never been mean to me. It's never gotten ugly. I've never been put in a timeout where it's like I don't get to be with him because I got to wait this thing out and I got to do this. I've never had to do penance. I've never anything. And there's always ever just been love and forgiveness and grace. That's it. That's it. And so if you and I decide that we want to take this idea seriously and we want to go out and we want to be loving, our best example, our secret weapon, is the person that's telling us to do it. The very same person that's telling you to do this is the very same person that wants to empower you to go out and do it so that other people can experience what you're experiencing, which is that love that is not condemning, that love that is kind, and that love that is patience, and that love that is grace. That's what this is about. Okay? Let me pray for you. Father, we want to love people. We want to do this, but it's hard. And so I would just ask that as each of us are kind of evaluating this idea of how we can love. And you know what? We felt bad about some of the ways we haven't been loving as we've sat here. God, I pray instead of shame that we just have your grace, that if there's a place we need forgiveness, we just get forgiveness. And God, that you would just help us to go out from here feeling lighter, feeling free, and that you would empower us to love others with patience and with kindness. I just pray that. And hey, before we stop, if you don't know God, I want you to know the same love that we here at Impact City know. Part of what we want is for you to know Jesus the way that we do. And so if you don't, right where you are, you can just say, Jesus, I want that. I want you in my life. I want you to fill me with your Spirit. I want you to forgive me. I want you to set me free. I want to know your love. I want you to show me how to live. And you know what? If you prayed that, if you asked Jesus for that today, one, you've got it. And two, we just want to help you as you're making choices and in the days that come. So you can stop by our New Here location out front. You can scan the QR code that's in front of you to let us know that you took a step with Jesus today. We just want to make sure that as we're all making steps, whatever step we made today, nobody at Impact City is making any steps alone, okay? All right, let's get to our feet and worship.